We're going to talk about Tornado Cash. Tornado Cash really, this action by OFAC sanctioning Tornado Cash really captivated the attention of the crypto audience last week, and we're still seeing the ramifications of having to comply with this compliance nightmare play out. Now, in the meantime, many a DeFi project has gone out there and said, okay, we don't want to get in trouble with the long arm of the law. We're going to comply, and at least at the front end level of our decentralized applications, we are going to comply and block some of these addresses that were named by U.S. regulators, U.S. authorities last week. So when they did this, the predictable cries of, oh, you're not really decentralized, rang out across crypto Twitter. And here, Daniel Kuhn, in an incisive opinion piece for CoinDesk, says, hey, these are real lives at play. Stop attacking DeFi founders for complying with the law. You don't want to mess with OFAC. It's bad. And yet, we keep hearing the same cry of, okay, yeah, decentralized in name only. That's fake. Oh, if you can change it, it's not real. So anyway, this is, I think, a really lightning rod issue. Certainly one of the more fascinating, I think, implications from the OFAC thing is who's going to play ball and who's going to say no. These are decentralized, immutable smart contracts, and in the back end, that may be the case. But in the front end, we're going to comply at least so that the entities that spin up these things don't go to jail. Anyway, a lot of different opinions, I'm sure. I want to toss it to Wendy for her initial thoughts on this one. Really interesting to see some of these conversations erupting around how decentralized really is DeFi.
So essentially, we're supposed to operate in a true decentralized economy. But at the same time, that requires great risk. And I understand what these founders and what these creators are going through is because they're trying to introduce code, which is essentially language. It should be safe under the First Amendment, but they're trying to create these really, really great products. And then we have all this crazy government overreach coming in and saying, no, you can't do that. But at the same time, I think that the crypto community as a whole needs to take a step back and really stop judging people, start using critical thinking, and understand maybe these guys have families, maybe they have things at stake, and they can't just continue to put themselves out there because we've seen this time and time again. And we've also seen this with John McAfee. Anytime he put himself out there to kind of take on the brunt from the US government or whatever it is he was doing, nobody stepped in to help at all. Everybody just talked about it on the internet. So the fact is, if you have your life at stake, if your freedom is at stake, your liberty is at stake, I don't see a problem with trying to play the devil's advocate and play with the law and do the right thing, because at the end of the day, the law doesn't care. It's going to come in, they're going to gaffle you up, they can harm your family, all kinds of crazy things. So I think we need to take a step back and just kind of use critical thinking and analyze what's happening here instead of just bullying people. Because you know what? If you want to take the risk, if you want to put yourself out there, then you do it. But stop attacking people on the internet because they're just trying to do the best that they can.
Wendy, I 100% agree with you. You took the words right out of my mouth. I think this is a really interesting discussion in this piece here. It's obvious that authorities want to slow mass adoption. It's obvious that what's happening and the magnitude at how fast the industry is developing is scaring them. I think that's quite obvious in the bills that are being created and the comments that are being made. But at the end of the day, there are people here who have families, they have mouths to feed. And I think if you want to operate not only in the industry but in society, you have to follow the rules and abide by the law. As you know, that's what they're there for. If we want to exist and we want to keep building towards this future that we talk about all the time, I think you have to abide by the rules. What was interesting to me in this article was the discussion between like the front end user interface and the back end technology, and how the back end technology can still exist, still continue to be developed while the front end user interface is not there. I thought that was really interesting. It obviously doesn't kind of fit with the role I play on this show when we talk about onboarding the next million or billion users, but the fact that we can still continue to develop this technology without the front end there is an optimistic take, I think. But Zach, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, again, these are pseudonymous by design systems with some privacy technology baked in, and that just doesn't comport with like the real world status of policy and regulation. And that is at its core what we're seeing here unfold. I don't know if there's necessarily some nefarious plot to inhibit crypto adoption or something like that. On the other side of the ledger, Tornado Cash was used by state actors, in this instance, North Korea, to launder large amounts of funds to fund things that the US government does not find especially Cool. So there is reason here why this is being targeted. But again, the broad overreach, the broad way that they've gone about doing this speaks to the complicating factors of a system that is pseudonymous, private by design, and doesn't necessarily comport with how the real world works when it comes to existing anti-money laundering practices. So, you mentioned these dusting attacks, right? How do you deal with these dusting attacks? People permissionlessly sending money associated with Tornado Cash to publicly known wallets. It's something that is very crazy, and I think we're going to see continuing ramifications play out from this OFAC action. And some of those ramifications are being directed right now toward DeFi founders who are having to make tough decisions about whether or not to live by the decentralized ethos or potentially live in violation of US law. Wendy, over to you.
Last take on this is that I do not like regulation, but at the same time, I understand that I do have to play devil's advocate and kind of work with it. It's just not a fun thing for me. I don't like taxes. I don't like the Fed. Don't like regulation. But at the end of the day, I understand.
Television.
I will say it on television because I say it on my channel and I say it all the time. I don't like any of these things. I do pay my taxes. I advocate for my audience to pay their taxes, but I don't agree with it. And it's just because I value my liberty and my freedom.
Shout out to Naomi Brockwell, founding member of The Hash. She would be all sorts of incensed. We're thinking of you, Naomi.